Okay, thank you for being here again, and I will start asking you the questions now. So, okay, so what? So how has your art interpreted art activism, and on what uh, and, or how did your art express activism in any shape or form?
Okay, well, I'm not exactly a political artist, except for that my art has always been about the female experience. So it's been about feminism and my experience of life from a cis feminine perspective. So I've always had issues of domesticity, and the kind of culture that's given to women is always either questioned or celebrated in my artwork. And I have made some paintings that are kind of overtly political, where I have one painting that's like a red, white, and blue dress, and there's an elephant in a clown suit sticking his trunk up the woman's dress, and there's a donkey, Democratic donkey in a clown suit laughing at it. So I've like tried to work in images that kind of comment on the state of affairs. And it's pretty sad. I made that painting like 25 years ago, and it's still like fresh today, like maybe worse.
Wow, that is a very interesting image. How has your art changed over the years?
Well, I actually think the things that draw me to painting are more about like my first person experience as an artist. And the thing that's really changed art making for me, besides having to work full time and support my house and my household, the thing that's really taken the toll on me is I have asthma from painting. So I've had to really switch up the materials that I use and the way that I make work so that it's non-toxic for me, because just using my favorite materials, which are oil paint, can leave me super sick for like half a year. So that's been a learning experience, and it's one of the reasons I'm like super careful about art supply safety with my students, and always my own health has made me kind of a safety expert with everybody else.
How do you think art activism has changed over the years regarding general public artists now and over the course up to 2020?
Wow. Well, I think, you know, a lot of art activism started in all the way back in the 1960s. And that has just been an ongoing development. Each generation seems to get more and more conceptual. And, you know, in the 60s, you saw a lot of performance art coming forward, and you saw feminist issues, and you started to see for the first time, you know, people of color bringing forth their concerns into artwork. And that has just continued to unfold. In the 1980s, you have groups like the Guerrilla Girls starting to, you know, where they're like wearing masks with gorillas over their head, and protesting at museums about the inclusion of women in shows. So you start to get artists kind of fighting back about who is included in the art history. And that is pretty much accelerated now all the way into something like Black Lives Matter, because you have the you have Black Lives Matter fighting for justice in the streets, but you also have the same group of people fighting for equality and representation in the museum. So what's going on politically in the world tends to continue to go on in the art world, which I very much agree with. So I'm a big advocate for inclusion. And now you have a lot of really exciting things. Like I was actually just dug this book out, not to show you, but to show one of my other students. I went to see this performance art show, Radical Women, Latin American Art, at the Hammer Museum, and somebody was talking about a project today, and I said, oh, let me get this book out for you and bring it by your house, because it's so much what she's trying to do with her own work. So it seems like each generation, kind of every 20 years, people are starting to rediscover these ideas, either rediscovering it by running into art by people and saying, oh, I'm gonna carry on in this tradition, or they just accidentally rediscover these ideas because they're political people, and then they start making art based on their politics, and then they realize that, you know, older artists tell them, you know, other people have done this, and then they get connected. So, you know, like that's my goal as an art teacher, is to make sure that you're not just remaking something that's been made, that when you're kind of in the groove of something that's already happened before, that you understand it so that you can go further with it instead of just like repeating it.
That is a very eye-opening answer.
Do you have another follow-up question for that? Did I say something you wanted me to expound on?
I would like you to expand a little bit more on the idea of remaking something.
Well, so there's certain forms that come up in art. You know, so it might be like, I'll give you an example. My painting teacher at San Francisco Art Institute was a painter called Robert Colescott. And he was a very interesting artist. He's actually a Black man. He's no longer alive. And he made about 10 years worth of paintings where he repainted famous paintings with Black people inserted into the traditionally white roles. So he appropriated art history and represented art history in this way that gave it like a whole different feel from being like a Black man from the South. And that is something that has sort of popped up in the 80s, and you still see people doing things like that. Like now repainting, there will be like a certain painting like the Mona Lisa that becomes kind of memeable, and people just start playing with that and giving the Mona Lisa different gender roles, different racial roles, making commentaries on society the way that they're showing her. And that tends to happen with different other performance art type things. You will see certain themes that kind of just keep getting explored by people. They've almost become like, traditionally we had like landscape, still life, portrait in painting, and now you start to see that there's like tradition. So the tradition of remaking art history with new political content has almost become one of the genres of art. So there's become these like new political genres have come out of kind of the play of artists. But a lot of artists who start doing that, they think they've discovered it until they realize that there's a whole tradition of people playing on paintings that came before. So that's one of the reasons that art education is so important, is because you want to be able to understand what has happened before and understand the kind of social commentary that was happening, even in like classic French painting that we would think is very serious painting now. There's often a lot of social content embedded in it.
Thank you for expanding upon that idea, and also thank you for your time and for giving me answers to these questions. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Is there anything else?
That is actually all for the day. I just wanted to say thank you for being here, like I said before, and I know you have a lot of other stuff to do, and I'm glad that you actually decided to do this with me.
You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, well.
Okay, well, you have a nice day.
Yes, and you too, Holly. Great to finally meet you. I didn't know you